Everyone wants to invest and make more money. So in this video, you're going to learn what I'd invest in if I was starting out again in 2024. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ed and I'm an economist turned property investor. And one of the questions I always get asked on the Property Academy podcast is, if you were starting again from zero in 2024, what would you do? And the good news is I only started investing about 6 years ago and have 4 investment properties so far. Now that's obviously not as many as my friend Andrew, who also appears on the channel. He owns 40 properties. But the good part about that is I don't have to think back that far. So we're going to go over how to get started, what I'd buy and when, and then also how to figure out what to do based on where you are personally at right now. Now, just keep in mind, this isn't personalized financial advice, and I'm not some guru who's been investing for 30 years. I'm young, I'm at the start of my investing journey, but if you're watching this, you're probably at the start as well. So this video isn't going to teach you how to buy 50 properties in 5 minutes, but if you're starting out in 2024, could be for you. And you might think that since this is a property YouTube channel, I'm going to say, just go out and buy lots of investment properties, job done, end of video. But that's not true, because properties are really expensive and not everyone has the money to just go out and buy a property. And in my book, Wealth Plan, we break investing down into 3 stages of life. You've got the starting blocks, running the race, and then crossing the finish line. And no matter which stage I was at in 2024, the first place I'd look is not at property, but at my job and my bank balance. And I'd be asking myself, do I have enough money to cover my day-to-day expenses? Because the truth is that saving and investing are pretty much the same thing. If you want to invest, you need money to do that. And if you're working a job where you are spending everything you earn, you can't really invest. I mean, it's really hard to invest if you don't have any money. And when it comes to saving, or as I said, I prefer the word investing, most creators on YouTube focus on how to spend less. So they'll say things like buy less coffee, spend less on groceries, those kinds of things. And while that absolutely does work, it is much easier to make more money through your job and then use that money to invest. Now, this assumes that you're really good at what you do and your work is genuinely useful for your company. But I'm going to assume that's the case for you because you're spending your free time watching videos like this on YouTube trying to improve yourself. To give you an example of this in action, if I think back to my first job, I earned 42 grand per year and I was used to living off that and saving a little bit. Now at that stage, what would be easier? Spending less to invest more, or trying to get a pay rise, maybe even switch jobs to earn more money? Well, in that case, if you're earning 42 grand, there's only so much you can save. So it clearly was earning more money. And in my book, Wealth Plan, we call that the earn, baby, earn strategy. So the next year I earned 44 grand a year, and that made it easier to save. I had more money available to invest. Then I earned 60 grand a year. Investing got easier, and then 70 grand a year, then 80K a year, and so on until I get to where I am today. And I think a lot of people ignore the obvious, which is get so good at your job that your boss will literally pay you more money not to leave because they don't want to lose you because you are so valuable to them. But here's the thing. When you get a pay rise, there is a real risk that you start thinking, I'm working hard, so I should be able to reward myself and spend even more, improve my lifestyle. So the risk is that you spend every extra cent you get through that pay rise. So here's a trick that I learned when I was 23 years old from the Art of Charm podcast and has really changed my life. When you get a pay rise, you let yourself spend half of it and then you save or invest the other half of it. So let's say you negotiate a pay rise and you get an extra $200 a week hitting your account. You allow yourself to spend $100 a week of that, and then you invest the other $100 a week. And that way you feel like you're actually getting the benefit of working so hard and earning more money, but you save and you invest as well. And I think it just makes investing sustainable because you're not depriving yourself too much, trying to live on too little, because otherwise your money can get a little bit like dieting, where you starve yourself on 1,200 calories a day for a few weeks. Then after that, you go out and you eat a whole chocolate cake. So if you're starting out from zero in 2024, you've got to create that $100, $200, maybe even $400 a week for savings and investing, because that then gives you options to do more. And if you like learning about money in this number-focused way, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm really trying to grow the channel to 20,000 subscribers. Now, once you've got that sorted, you've got lots of things you could invest in, shares, property, businesses, but my primary goal would still be to build a property portfolio. And I know you might think, Ed, of course you're going to say that. This is a property-based YouTube channel. Or you might think, Ed, you're biased. You own a company that helps people invest in property. And those things are both true. So feel free to disagree with me in the comment section if you like, and we could have a really good discussion. But hear me out. The reason I would still build a property portfolio is for one big single reason, and it's called leverage. And it just means that I can use the bank's money and you can use the bank's money to invest in property. Then when it goes up in value, we get to keep all of the gains. So if I take you back in time, I bought my first property for $385,000. And I think I put down 20% of the money to buy it. So that's the deposit or down payment, which was something like $77K. And I'll tell you how I got that money in a sec. But once I bought that property, 18 months later, I got the property revalued. Now, the market had gone crazy because of COVID, but the valuer said it was worth $580,000. So I'd made $195,000 from this investment property in around 18 months. I'd more than tripled my money. Now, there is no chance that I've been able to make 195 grand investing in shares with the money I had at the time, even though the share market went crazy. And that 195 grand in 18 months, that's not achievable today in 2024 because COVID made house prices go crazy. So I'm not saying that you are going to triple your money in the next 2 years. But if house prices go up by 5%, maybe your house will make you 25 grand, 30 grand, maybe even 40K a year. And for a lot of people, that's life-changing money that they wouldn't be able to save themselves. Now, I don't really have a specific love for property, houses, or real estate. I don't invest in property because I'm a big fan of selling Sunset or something like that. But I'd invest in property because the bank will lend you money to buy it and then it goes up in value. It's a leveraged investment. And the other big reason I'd try to build a property portfolio is that you can use your houses to go and buy more houses. So let's say you already have your own home. You can use the no cash needed method to borrow money against that house so you can go and buy an investment property. So it's not like you have to keep saving up a deposit. As your investment properties go up in value, you can use the money you make in those houses to go and buy some more houses. And I often say that if you could borrow money against watermelons, if they paid you rent and you could insure them and they went up in value, then I wouldn't have a YouTube channel talking about property. I'd be talking about delicious tropical fruit instead. And if you want to learn more about that, you should definitely check out this video where I talk about how I bought a house with $0 in cash. But here's the issue. The bank won't lend money to everyone watching this video. So not everyone can just go out and use the no cash needed methods straight away. So if you want to invest in property, you've got to get that yes from the bank. And the question naturally becomes, okay, I've got a couple of $100 to invest each week. I did that by getting a good job, asking for a pay rise, what we talked about at the start. Well, what do I do with that? How do I use that to start investing in property? And this is where it kind of depends on your personal situation. So I started talking about the 3 stages of life. You've got the starting blocks, running the race, and then crossing the finish line. Now, the starting blocks phase is where you don't own any properties yet. Your goal then is to buy your first property, which could be your own home or an investment property. The running the race phase, that's where you already own your first property and you're trying to build a property portfolio. And then you've got the crossing the finish line. Now that's where you own a couple of properties already and you want to transition into earning a passive income. Now most of you watching this channel, you're in the starting blocks or the running the race phase. So I won't talk too much about the crossing the finish line stage. So if I was at the starting blocks trying to get my first home, I'd start by taking that money I've created in the first part of this video and I'd put it into a government-backed savings scheme while I'm saving for that first home. Now I do that because usually these have good tax benefits. So where I'm from, it's called KiwiSaver, though if you're in Australia, it's called the First Home Super Saver Scheme, and there are different rules again in the States and also in the UK. And I'd be putting my extra money in there so I don't spend it, because usually there are some restrictions about what you can use that money for. So if you're the sort of person where you would be tempted to spend that extra money that you're investing or that you're saving, then you'd use one of those accounts. But if you're a little bit better with your money, you know that you're not going to spend it, then you might use a term deposit or invest in a low-risk conservative fund. Now, in this case, your plan is to use that money to buy a home. And that's the reason why I'd be investing in something quite low risk like that term deposit. Now, the reason for that is your time horizon is probably quite short, like 1 to 3 years. So you don't want to invest all your money in shares or a fund that's quite high risk, because what happens if the market tanks and you can no longer afford to buy the house? Now, if you're at the running the race stage, then you already own a property and you're in the position to buy an investment property. Now, I'm going to assume the bank says yes right now, but we'll talk in a second about what to do if they say no. Now, in that case, I would be looking to buy my first investment property pretty quickly if the bank's saying yes. And to do that, I'd use the no cash needed method. So I'd borrow the deposit against my own house, and then I'd go out and I'd buy an investment property without putting in any of my own cash if possible. Then I'd be using that extra cash that we've created every week from part 1 of this video, and I'd use that to cover some of those costs while interest rates are really high because the rent won't cover all of the costs. And I'd probably invest in an undervalued region, something that's got decent yields, and I'd probably buy a property that isn't too expensive. And you can learn more about how to do that on my website, opuspartners.co.nz. That's where we help regular Kiwis grow their wealth through new build investment properties. And what I'd do is I'd make money by the house going up in value, and then as interest rates go down, you might be able to go out and buy another house. But as I said, not everyone can do this straight away. So now let's say that you're in the running the race stage, you own your own home, but the bank won't give you the money to buy an investment property just yet. So this is actually me at the moment. I own some investment properties, but I need to build up more equity in those properties before I can get my next one. So what I'm doing right now is taking that money I created in the first part of the video, and it might be $300 or $400 a week, and I'm using that to pay down debt on one of my properties. Then once those properties go up in value, I've paid off some debt, you can then go out and buy your next investment property. And that's honestly what I'm doing right now, and I'm using the strategies I talk about in this video here, which is how you pay off your mortgage in 5 to 7 years.